There we go. So we'll record it. Is it going to be sent out to people when it's done or posted somewhere? It'll be sent out. Okay. Thank you. Minnie says it's going to be sent out. Well, welcome. We are here to spend a little bit of our lunchtime talking about why fidgets work and how we can use movement to work with stress. Whoops, I need to be over here. We're scheduled to go from 12 to 12:45. If we finish earlier, we finish earlier and you have more of your lunch time. We're going to go through some appreciations and introductions, a land acknowledgement, and then we're going to talk about stress in our nervous system. And we're going to talk about how fidgets help. And that's why we're here. So I'm Rachel Hardees. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I've partnered and worked with the Clallam Resilience Project for a number of years now, doing various workshops. And so I was very excited to be a part of this winter wellness workshop series that we're doing. So appreciation to Ileana and the Lower Elwha SART team. And Ileana, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Ileana Jones, and I have also been partnering with the Clallam Resiliency Project. I worked at the Lower Elwha Clallam Tribe as a sexual assault response coordinator. We do forensic exams for 18 and under for all of Clallam County. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for being here today.
Excellent, thank you. And Ileana and Lower Elwha are hosting this work, and so she's supporting me and she's taking care of the video aspects for this series. And I'd really like to acknowledge and appreciate Clallam Resilience Project for bringing this information throughout the Olympic Peninsula and for sponsoring this workshop series. And of course, all of you for taking time out of your day to be a part of this. So our land acknowledgement, hold on, I can't see my full screen here. Please join me in expressing deep respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors and leaders, the Lower Elwha Clallam, Quileute, Hull, Makah, and Jamestown S'Klallam tribes for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Thank you. Okay, so chat in so we know who's here. If you'd like, you don't have to, but chat in what's your name and how would you like to affiliate or identify yourself? Either the agency you work for or someplace you volunteer. You're also welcome to say that you're attending as a caring community member. So let's see, who do we have here? Oh, hi, Amy. I was trying to decide if it was comforting or nerve-wracking knowing people I know that are here. And Minnie. Jonelle at PC, Pat, excellent, from Forks. PPH, excellent. Shelly, hello, hello. Anybody else? Ariel from OMC, excellent. Kelsey. First step, Janine, excellent. Such a nice variety. Excellent, excellent. Thank you all for being here. Okay, well, I will continue on. Oh, Lori, got one more from OMC, excellent. Another first step, excellent. Yay! We're so excited because with Clallam Resilience, we really want to get this information out into the community, to individuals, and into workplaces and agencies. So great to see so much representation. Izumi, first step, awesome. All right. Jackie, great. Yep, love members of the community joining us too. It's for everybody. Okay, so I think my nerves have finally settled talking about stress. Let's continue on. You're welcome to keep chatting in who you are. So, well, now we're going to chat in. Stress. What words come to your mind when you hear the word stress, when you think about stress? And with that, how does your body respond when you think about stress? And what's interesting, when I looked for pictures to put in the presentation, a good number of them were people with their heads in their hands. And then I thought this one kind of looked like a bunch of overwhelmed. So let's hear it. Yeah, overwhelmed, exhausting, overworked, tense. Yes. Yep. Oh, that sounds like heaviness, pressure, tired. Yeah. Yeah. So when you think stress, what happens? What other words come to mind if anybody else wants to share? Heart rate goes up. Oh my gosh, right? For sure. Yes, heart rate goes up. Sometimes our breathing can get restricted to our chest, that tenseness or the tightness can happen. I kind of feel buzzy. I'm actually standing. I couldn't sit today. I'm standing because I feel pretty buzzy in my body. Because even though I love doing this, public speaking is still one of the top things that promote anxiety in human beings. As an interesting side note, it's used to create stress in research studies. All right, anybody else want to share? Otherwise, here we go. Stress. So this image comes from Dr. Bruce Perry's work and his neurosequential network. And generally, when we think of stress or when we feel stress, we think of it as something bad, something harmful, something to be avoided. We don't like stress generally. And I looked up what the dictionary definition of stress is, because I think it's always an interesting starting point to define what it is that we're talking about. So somewhat circular, it was a state resulting from a stress. And so a stress can be like either unpredictable or predictable. Like I knew I was giving this presentation and I've modulated the stress all along and I still feel some stress. And it says a state of bodily or mental tension resulting from factors that tend to alter the existent equilibrium. Right? So when we feel stressed, we're pulled out of maybe being able to think clearly. We're kind of pulled out of balance. And so we have stress. We have stress that we know is going to happen. That can be work stress. Like we know some things are going to be stressful at work. And then we have stress that we don't know that's what's going to happen. And even that is simply a stressful aspect of living, of being human, is we just don't know everything that's going to happen. So when we have unpredictable stress or when we have a severe stress, so that can be a single incident that's traumatic to somebody, or when we have prolonged stress, we end up being vulnerable. And that what that leads to is it exhausts our brains, it exhausts our bodies, and our thinking part of our brain becomes less engaged because our bodies are put into a survival mode. This puts us into our fight or flight response, our stress response. And so psychologically, it can be harder to problem solve. We can get decision fatigue, like everything can just feel too much. It's overwhelming. We can lose track of time. We can forget things, and we can be really a lot quicker to frustrate. The flip side, though, and to remember, is that stress can also help us grow. It can help us survive. It can improve our resilience. So if it's predictable, right, we know we're going to be stressed, we can plan how to moderate it. If it's moderate levels of stress, our system can return back to its set point. Or if it's controlled. So we know, like I know that at 12:45 today, I'm going to be done with this. And so I'll probably do some movement. I might probably go for a walk to move the energy that's still in my system, but I know that this is going to end. And so being able to be in that experience helps us improve our resilience, right? So sometimes we might have a fantasy of, I'm just not going to feel stressed. And we cannot get rid of stress. It is a necessary part of living and surviving. So if you've had that thought that you shouldn't feel stress, or that if you only regulated more, there's a lot we talk about regulation. If you only did this more, if you only worked harder at this, if you were only this or that, you wouldn't feel stress. And let's let that idea go. It's more about being able to identify and work with the energy of stress in our bodies. And like other emotions and feelings, stress can be contagious. We can get ripple effects in our community. So an individual who's stressed might their reaction might be to snap at somebody. Well, now that person's stress response is going to get activated. Now they might snap at somebody, and we can have a ripple effect. So looking at how we can work with this individually as well as within our agencies can be helpful. So to understand what we're working with, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about our nervous system. The autonomic nervous system specifically, which is the part of our nervous system that controls our heart rate, our breathing. It's checking in with our organs. It's checking in to know what's going on inside our system. And we don't have a lot of control over it. Like the stress response will happen, and then we can work with it. So our nervous system, this is the current thinking within neuroscience, is that our nervous system is always scanning our environment and our insides for safety and making sure we're okay. Its main purpose is to make sure we survive. And so a lot of the sensations that we attribute to stress come from the activation of this part of our nervous system. So the fight or flight response, there's a freeze response, and there's kind of the collapse response. And so what can happen is initially we're going to experience a fight or flight response. And then if it's a prolonged stress, or if it's severe, or if it exceeds our ability to moderate it, we might give in, go numb, and collapse, and bring in, there's 3 branches to this part of our nervous system. So in this flow chart, we're starting with, we have an experience, and then we have a perception or judgment or thoughts about that experience, and that can activate the energy in our body. So for example, public speaking, right? If I think about it and think, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid I'm going to mess up, or, oh, what if I say something stupid? Or what if somebody asks a question I can't handle, right? All of that's generally going to, and it does activate my fight or flight system. And so what I've practiced is I notice that. So I pause and I notice, ooh, my tummy's a little tight. I feel energy buzzing up and down my body. So if I notice it, yes, I notice it, I name it, and I do it. Like I name, like I really need to move or shake, and then I do it. And it can be breathing, I use my breath a lot, but movements and fidgets, and then repeating, like you're doing that over and over and over again. What can happen though is if we don't notice it, so we have this energy, I say, I don't notice that I have the energy, I have the opportunity to remind myself to pause and notice this energy. And if I do that, then I'm going to name it. Ooh, I'm feeling tight and fluttery. And okay, a deep breath and maybe some shaking is going to help me move the energy. And I can repeat it. If I don't pause and notice the energy, so if I haven't created a practice for myself where I remember to pause, then I'm going to end up with chronic stress buildup, and I'm potentially going to end up with mental and physical health issues. So that's why we're talking about stress, and that's why this workshop is about stress. Let's see, I want to just make sure I'm staying on track here. So the other way this can happen is, make sure I'm on the right screen, is starting with the fidgeting. So it might be I'm at a meeting, and maybe we're talking about something that I want to speak up about. Well, I don't like that. And I definitely worry. I don't like conflict. And so if I'm thinking like, oh gosh, but I want to say this thing, then I don't have a clicky pen. I might start clicking my pen. And you've probably been in meetings with people, and unfortunately it's a noisy fidget and it can be irritating for people who have noise sensitivities. But it might be that I'm sitting there and I'm just fidgeting, and maybe I'm not really thinking too much about what's going on in my body. So I can pause, I can use this fidgeting, this movement, or sometimes, people swing a leg or bounce a knee. I can pause and I can notice it. And then I can curiously attend to that energy by asking like, oh gosh, okay, well, what am I feeling? Oh, well, I'm feeling nervous because I'm thinking this is something I want to speak up about. And what do I need? Now in a meeting, I can't really, well, depending on your agency, maybe you make an agreement, like people can get up and move around, maybe not. But I can pay attention to what do I need and with what's appropriate for where I am. And I can name that. Like, ooh, I'm feeling nervous. I'm a little worried about this. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to press my hands together, something like that, and repeat. And in that way, I'm moving the energy of stress. So I want to pause there, just see if anybody has questions. You're welcome to chat them in. If it makes sense, or also just kind of does anything stand out to you with that description of our nervous system and stress response, and kind of starting from either the movement in or the energy to the movement out. Any questions or comments? No? I don't see anybody hands up or anything. Okay. Well, if you think of something, you're welcome to chat it in. It's a quick, that feels like a quick overview of a pretty complex system. So this is a small slice of, or trying to make it holdable, I guess. I don't know. Notice it, name it, do it. That's it. Oh, do we exert any control over the fidgeting? Cecilia, you do when you become aware and intentional of it. So sometimes, or intentional about it, aware of it and intentional about it. And that's where sometimes you can notice that a leg might be shaking and you don't even know it. And so noticing it, and you can be like, oh, well, what do I need? Do I need to stretch? Do I need to just stand up and march in place a little bit? Something like that, being intentional about the movement. And so it's either you're moving it, you notice it, and you'll be deliberate about it, or you notice like, oh, this is the movement I want to do. Does that answer your question? So I'll watch. So what's on the screen now is some examples of words to use to identify the energy in your body.
I don't know if you're sharing the screen, but I can't see anything.
You can't see anything. Uh-oh. Says I'm sharing the screen. Let's see. Minnie, can you see it?
I can.
You can. Okay.
Okay, I'll leave and come back.
Okay. I don't know if, yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. So one of the things that can help on, oh, there we go. Thank you everybody for in the chat. It can be helpful. Part of naming it can be like, oh, I've got these flutters in my tummy. What movement would help the flutters kind of leave my tummy, so to speak? And so this is just a sampling of words, and you might come up, you might already have words, or you might find other words that suit, mean more to you than these do. But these are an example of some words that you can use. So starting to just simply notice that you feel stressful is helpful. And then to take it a step further, naming the sensations in your body and asking yourself what would help you be with and move the energy. It's helpful and can build resilience to slow down and pause with the energy before moving it, if that's what it wants to do. Because sometimes we're so quick to be like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling these flutters. I don't want to feel these flutters. And I'm just going to jump around and move or shake or roll or whatever, and move them along. And it can be helpful. And this helps expand our resilience and our window of tolerance for these sensations in our body, to pause with it a minute, like that, to be curious about, these are flutters. What's going on? All right, I don't see any other questions. We're just going to keep going here. So, which brings us to fidgets, right? This is where the fidgets and fidgeting come in. I'm using fidgets and fidgeting because it's kind of the common vernacular. What I want you to be aware of is, what do you think about fidgeting or fidgets? Is it a bad thing? Is it an irritating thing? Sometimes I think fidgeting can have a negative connotation, especially in schools. Excuse me. And so reframing it or thinking of it as also their learning tools or their regulation tools. And because I like words, I went to the dictionary, And it defines, Merriam-Webster defines it as an uneasiness or restlessness as shown by nervous movements. And as also then something such as a toy that's designed to be held and manipulated to decrease stress and anxiety. And so holding in mind that these are tools to help you. And if you're doing it around people, it's helpful to find like silent fidget tools as opposed to something that clicks, or the fidget spinners were really popular and they're also kind of noisy. So I remember I was feeling kind of bad for teachers if they had a classroom of kids spinning those things. That would be noisy, and then that could irritate other kids or anybody who's noise sensitive. So fidgeting, in general, we're talking about using movement to help us cope with the energy of stress. So fidgets can be helpful if you can't leave and go for a walk, or if you can't do a big movement, they're a way to move it. And also to just say that fidgeting movement helps us. Fidgeting helps us when we're experiencing other emotional energy too. Not just stress, and not just things we would label as negative emotions or negative feelings. So anger can be helped by movement, but so can excitement too. Can you think about watching one of game shows or something when somebody wins a prize and they're like jumping up and down and screaming out of the energy of excitement. And so movement isn't just for those emotions that we don't like so much. Movement can help us with any of our emotions. So wherever you are, let's see, I'm going to change my view here. Show us your fidgets. So the fidgets we have on screen, I don't know if Ileana, if you want to share anything, or Minnie too, are Minnie and Ileana's. And Ileana's got a squishy. And I have variety here. I like stones. Smooth stones can be something to fidget with. Let's see. Is anybody, am I seeing any fidgets? No, I'm not seeing any fidgets. Also like pipe cleaners. And we live in a beautiful area. And so pieces of nature. Oh, what do you have, Minnie? Oh, that's like a jelly sticky thing. And you could use your hands. All right, there we go. Yeah, Ileana's got a slinky. I've got this kind of thing that bends into shapes. There's bendables. So I've accumulated these over the years. Like, let me see, do I have another one? Oh, I like these. This is like a piece of tubing that has a marble in it. And so you can play with the marble. It's relatively quiet. But I find too, depending on the energy, it can be bent and stretched and twisted or even bit on, and it stays together. So there's, fidgets come with a way that kind of looks like how you should use them or you're supposed to use them, but get creative with whatever you might be needing in that moment. All right, let's see, go back here. Oops, there we go. So ways to move the energy, right? Using a fidget tool, using your body. So I'm trying not to wiggle too much because you all are watching, but I've got my feet dug into my carpet. I can feel them on the floor. Here's like a Velcro, can also be something to fidget with. And you probably notice all of these are involving sensation. Well, let's see, there's some chat. Oh, and yeah. Lori, do you want to share how you use your pen? Oh, yeah, Amy. Those are really popular. There we go. I got the chat back up now. But some pens, I found a pen. It's actually a bunch of magnets designed to be taken apart and fidgeted with. I haven't tried that one in a meeting. I'm not sure how that would work. And so the other ways to move the energy, going for a walk, or you can like kind of march in place. And the challenge is, you know your body. I don't know your body. And so there's no way for me to say, you just need to go squish this ball for 5 minutes and then press your hands together and take a deep breath and you'll be fine. So that might not be what the energy in your body needs. So it's really about an opportunity to practice how do you connect with yourself. So standing up, stretching, like pushing hands together can be good. There's a thing called a hand jam and pressing. There's a lot of sensations, a lot of sensory nerve endings in our fingertips. So pressing our fingertips together. I like this one because you can do it under a table. You can do it in a meeting. I try to think about a lot of ways we can move the energy that's quiet so that we can use them out in meetings or places where bigger movements aren't okay. Smells, oh my gosh, yeah, Ileana, smelling cedar and lavender, and right? Smells like, so all aspects of our body can be helpful with movement. So chat in, how do you move the energy in your body, or how does the energy of stress want to move in your body? Because you all know you all have some insight into what it feels like for you and what can help. So I'm just curious, maybe wants to chat in or unmute and share. How do you move the energy in your body? While we're waiting for people to chat in here, other ways are shaking, just kind of shaking in place. Oh, puzzles, yeah, that's a good one.
I do a lot of stretching.
Stretching, yeah, that's good. Any particular, is like the whole body stretching, or do you notice it's more like?
I get a lot of tension in my shoulders and my back
Yeah.
with my stress, so I do a lot of stretching of like my arms and my upper back just to kind of relieve the tension buildup.
Nice. That's beautiful. Yes, because that is a big spot where stress tends to go. Oh, yeah, spinning the ring on your finger. That's awesome. That's a good one.
I also have this little metal ring that's kind of like a spring and it twirls on your finger. I like that one.
Yes, and that gives quite a lot of sensation too.
It does, yeah. And you can switch it from finger to finger and it's quiet. So I play with that one a lot.
Love it. Yes, mine's broken. Otherwise, I would have had that up too.
I did break it, but I fixed it.
No, good for you. Yeah, lots of great examples. And yeah, as we stretch as often. Stretching is huge. And then, yes, oh yeah, yeah. So Amy, wiggling, stretching, supplements. It can get annoying. It sounds like it can get in the way. Tapping, oh yeah, tapping's a big one. If you haven't looked that up. Yoga, breathing, knitting. Oh yeah, yep, that EMT tapping is very powerful. So many ways. See, there's no right way to do it. It's getting to know your system. Oh yeah, balance. Yep. Oh, the Nido. Yep. And even within those, within that idea of squishies, there's some squishies that are just squishy all the way through, and then there's some that have some texture in them. And so sometimes we might have different sensory needs for texture or not. The balance board is good. That's a whole body kind of thing. Ah, excellent, excellent, excellent. Even like if you rub your hands and feet or walking the dog, absolutely. Rubbing kind of pressure up and down your arms or on either side. What else? Prayerful meditation. Yes, absolutely. Meditation is really powerful. Let's see, mindfully drinking a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or water, or just pausing a moment to be with ourselves. Excellent, excellent, everybody. Thank you. Oops. So then, because the Column Resilience Consortium is about how do we help support our community and our workplaces and having this common language for stress and resilience, the near sciences and ACEs, all the neuroscience that we're learning about trauma informed and supporting people. So if you can, think about, like, is your workplace appropriate that you can have fidget offerings on desks for you and clients or visitors or however you do your work, or even coworkers if you're all sitting there can you normalize within your workplace having something to kind of move with, and help your workplace understand why movement can be a helpful part of our days, and a helpful part of our workplaces. I'm trying to think. So I counsel students at Peninsula College part-time, and I have a basket that's filled with, I brought some of these actually from my office today, that's filled with these kinds of things, so that when I'm meeting with students, it's right there and they can just grab it and play with it. We're talking about movement today, but like Ileana brought up, smells can be helpful. I remember learning with mediation for conflict that somebody had oranges in the meeting room, and if things were starting to get kind of activated and tense, they'd pop open an orange, and the smell of an orange would fill the air, and that can be a soothing smell or helpful, kind of calm the energy smell. If we could normalize using fidgets, that can be helpful. Or normalize, it's okay to move a little bit, or sometimes people can stand at meetings, or having alternative kinds of seats or chairs. Usually in my office, I sit on a yoga ball. I like sitting on a big yoga ball. It helps, I can move, I can kind of stretch off of it, and it's more comfortable for me. So alternative kinds of seats and chairs. Sometimes having toys in the waiting room, if you're an agency that serves families and you have kids, giving kids something to do and something to focus on. And the community we live in, for everybody who's on the Olympic Peninsula, we live in an amazing community. We have access to numbers of playgrounds. We have so many trails all around us. We have the parks, we have community pools, we have fitness facilities. So there's lots of ways to get movement. And going for walks with each other or with friends helps build community at the same time. And community is an important part of building resilience as well. And Minnie's adding, yeah, breaks between meetings or walking meetings. Yes, absolutely. Being nice to yourself when you schedule things, not to do them back to back. That's been a lesson that I've had and tried to implement, is being nice to myself. Let's see, any other thoughts of how we can expand, or how you can imagine the idea of fidgets and movement being used in your workplace? You're welcome to unmute and share or type in.
I think surrounding yourself with nature. Sometimes I bring the nature in. So I have lots of plants, mushrooms, just different things.
Yeah. Yes, that's a great idea. And we're going to talk more about nature next week too. It's a great segue, Ileana. Let's see. I thought I had a thought, but I think it's left. So anyway, I invite you to think about how can we normalize and embrace movements appropriate to your workplace, but embrace it to help everybody work with the energy of stress. Other things too could be doing something together, like at the start of meetings. I've coached a variety of youth sports, and sometimes the kids are quite wiggly and are not paying attention to coaching or what we're doing. And so I've paused and I've had the whole team. I don't know how many people remember the Wiggles. It was a music group, and you get the Wiggles out, right? And so even as adults, like, we get the Wiggles as adults, and how can we use that? Depending on your workplace, you can start meetings with, okay, everybody, let's just kind of shake a little bit, roll our shoulders, or even an invitation. Okay, everybody, check in with your body and notice, what movement do you need? What breath do you need? Something like that, because we never know what everybody else might need. Amy, you do the Wiggles. Awesome. Yes, man, definitely before bed. Kids have that burst of energy. So before we go into resources and a poll for today, are there any questions or thoughts or things that have stood out to anybody that you'd like to share? Again, you can unmute or chat in. I've also made it a habit to drink ice water because that is a way to regulate our nervous system. No, right? How do you reconcile that it's disrespectful or unprofessional to move in the workplace? Yeah. So that's where I think it's getting the people who are in charge to understand, to come to these things and other offerings that the Clown Resilience Project does, to understand why as humans we need movement, even as adults. We're better at the sit still and pay attention than kids are, but we still need it. And inviting that into the workplace is really helpful. Yeah. Did you want to say any more about that, Minnie? Or did you have other?
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate you leading it back to the neurobiology of how it then helps us to become maybe more complex thinkers, or being able to use our executive functioning
Yes.
In a more focused way.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. So let's do the whole thing, right? So if I'm stressed and I'm kind of chronically stressed at work, then I'm not going to be able to be as critical of a thinker or as a creative problem solver as I can be when I have space. So if my workplace then has a practice that maybe at the start of meetings, there could be any other kind of thing, but let's go with that. At the start of meetings, we pause, we take a breath, then that's going to help me connect with myself and understand, whew, I'm really feeling a lot of stress, as well as in that moment, help move some of that energy, which can then help my prefrontal cortex, my thinking part of my brain, come more online so I can be more productive, more creative. That's why we want workplaces to do this. That makes sense, everybody? All right. Any other questions or thoughts? And you can keep going. These are some of the resources. I'm a play therapist, and so I get a lot of movement in my day, and I really been trained by synergetic play therapy. Callie Mahler is an occupational therapist who has a whole curriculum and games and stuff for practicing interoception, which is that practice of what is happening inside of me. Bruce Perry is the neurosequential model of Dr. Bruce Perry. And then the Sensory Motor Psychotherapy Institute, like their whole premise is healing through movement and the energy in our body. And just this week on their webpage, they added, or their website, they added a page of sensory motor practices for tumultuous times. And I think there were 3 of them out there. So that could be some place to go and have a guided practice as a place to start. Yeah. So let's see, Ileana, do you want to do the poll? And then if we have more questions or comments, we can do that. Your feedback really helps us guide what we're presenting and how to make sure we're meeting your needs or that these are useful workshops.
Can you all see the poll?
I have it.
Thank you for responding.
Yes, we have 46% have responded. There we go, 53.
Yeah.
66. Thank you, guys.
66. Yes.
Woohoo! And it's we can't see who's answering what. It's a
No.
totally anonymous poll. And feedback is really helpful. That's how I learn. That's how Clown Resilience learns. And so it's helpful to hear if there's things we could do better or things that didn't make sense. I was telling Ileana, I'm always trying to figure out how to explain our nervous system in a helpful way, or in a way that makes sense, but it can be so vast and so nuanced that it can be tough. So I'm always experimenting with that. All right, we have 80%. A few others. Any others want to pop in and answer the questions? And if we have time, if anybody has Any questions or comments, or again, want to chat in what stood out to you today, or what's one practice you're going to experiment with? That would be great. And even as I'm watching this, I'm standing, I have my feet kind of touching, crossed each other, and I'm squishing a squishy ball.
Just in case there's anybody that is not able to get the questions in the poll, I also put a QR code here in the chat in case you might be able to do it that way.
Great, thank you, Ileana.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, somebody needs fidgets, you have plants. Plants are great. You could pet your plants. Maybe the leaves feel differently.
That is part of what you do. Yeah, that's part of you do. You kind of every once in a while you gotta wipe your plants so they don't get much dust.
Right. Yeah. Or Jonelle, sorry, if you finding a rock that fits your hand or is kind of smooth. Any number of things can work.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
I think I will be ending the poll. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Right.
Okay. Oops. Oops.
Yeah, can everyone see the results?
Oh, I closed it. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Ileana, for hosting. And Minnie, so great you could be here with 2 more workshops in this winter wellness series. So in 2 weeks, same time, same place. We're going to be talking about attention and where is your attention. And that we're going to be looking at nature and grounding exercises and ways to come back to yourself. And then 2 weeks after that, February 19th will be our last one. And we're going to talk about what is your mindset. So today was talking about movement. Next week is going to be talking about where are you putting your attention. And then the last one's going to be about what are you thinking? Because these all work together. It's a little challenging to do these little slivers. But that's kind of what these are, trying to keep the focus on each individual piece. Okay.
If I'm not enrolled for those next classes, how do I do that?
You visit clallamresilienceproject.org and sign up the same way you signed up for today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yay. Thank you, Janine. All right, everybody. Well, again, thank you so much for spending your lunchtime with us. And if you join us next week, I look forward to hearing how you've used any of this and how maybe you've practiced. Not next week, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Sorry. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.